All right, welcome to the Bedford Area Chamber of Commerce Chamber Vibes podcast. This is Kayla back in the podcast studio this week. I'm going to have to remember how to host this thing without Foster here with me, but it's just me today. I have a guest that's coming on in just a second. Before we get into that, I want to talk about a couple events that we have coming up in the next few weeks. The first one is actually tomorrow. It is going to be on Thursday, November 2nd from 4 to 5 p.m. at the Bauer Center for the Arts. We're continuing our charcuterie and technology event with Data Privia. We've done these in September, October so far. We'll have the one in November and then one more in December. So Data Privia is a great partner of the Chamber, and they have partnered with us to bring you various topics relevant to the workplace, dealing with technology and things that you might need to know and that you might just not know that could really benefit your business. This month's topic is firewalls. So we're going to be talking about improving your business's security and efficiency. Data Privia will be providing beverages and charcuterie, and there's no charge to attend this event. It's a really great event to just come out and learn a little bit about technology. They'll also be able to answer some questions for you at the end of the event if you have a technology question that's not necessarily dealing with firewalls. So again, that is going to be tomorrow, November 2nd from 4 to 5 p.m. at the Bauer Center for the Arts, and there is no charge for that. If you have a second, we'd appreciate it if you could RSVP on our website, but it's not 100% necessary. This Saturday is our last signature event of the year. It's our 10th annual Christmas market, and this year we're kicking off the holidays and small business season at the Elks Home, and we're going to have several different types of vendors throughout the day. It's going to be Saturday, November 4th from 10 to 3. We'll have some food, some holiday shopping. This is always a really great event. Last year we had over 400 people walk through the event, and we're just excited to be able to host it at the Elks Home this year. They'll have their Christmas lights up outside. Don't think they'll be lit this year, but we will have them up so you can at least see them. So the entry to that event is $5 per person. Any children that are ages 2 or younger can enter for free, and we will have tons of signage for parking and things like that. But if you need any help, you'll be able to find the Chamber volunteers spaced out throughout the event. So again, that's this Saturday from 10 to 3 at the Elks Home, and I would like to thank our title sponsor for that event, which is Premier Inspections. On Sunday, November 19th, we're hosting a ribbon cutting for Woods Goods and Mercantile. This is a newer family to the area. They just opened Woods Goods a few months ago, and they are going to be hosting a Christmas festival on Sunday, November 19th, and we are going to be able to host the ribbon cutting at 12 o'clock. The entire festival is going to be from 12 to 4 p.m. that day, and they are located at 2770 West Lynchburg Salem Turnpike in Bedford. If you're interested in being a vendor at this festival, please reach out to Heather Wood. You can find her contact information on our website, or you can visit their Facebook page. We are wrapping up our events for the end of the year, and we're really getting started on next year's events. So stay tuned in the next few weeks to see what we have planned going into the new year and some different ways that you can get involved with the Chamber. So I want to go ahead and introduce our guest for today. We have Mary Massey with Poplar Forest. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How are you doing this morning?
Good. It's really exciting to be here.
Yes, I always, every time when we do these, the people come in and they're like, wow, it's so awesome in here. Everyone loves Woody's studio.
Yep, that's exactly the conversation I had with Woody before you got here about how cool the studio is.
Yes, everybody loves it when they come in. It's so nice. So we are going to be talking mostly about your wine festival today. But before we get to that, I would love it if you would just tell me a little bit about you and what you do with Poplar Forest and kind of an overview of Poplar Forest.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Mary Massey. I'm the Director of Programs and Education. I sort of tell people kind of jokingly that I'm pretty much in charge of everything a visitor experiences on the property, with the exception of the museum shop. We do have a museum shop manager that does a great job with our shop, but I basically am in charge of all of the interpretation and education on the property. So I take all of the historic information, all of the research and work that our archaeology and restoration departments do, and I kind of funnel it and make it easily digestible for visitors. So I'm in charge of our volunteer corps. We train new volunteers. We have a new training coming up in January if anybody's interested. We always need more volunteers. We teach everybody how to give tours. We show them how to work in hands-on history with our school groups. People can volunteer in the museum shops. We will teach everybody how to do that. I'm also in charge of creating any new tours that we do on the property. All of the events we do, the public programming falls under my jurisdiction, and creating all of the new exhibits on the property. So we just opened our new parkway last August, so a little over a year ago now. And as part of opening the parkway, we added all of this new interpretive signage along it and also going down to our slave quarters site from the Jefferson era. So that really falls under my purview as well, kind of organizing it, making sure all the information is factual and easily digestible for people. So it's a really, really fun job to have.
Sounds like a lot too.
Yes, it is.
So tell me, for the volunteers, how is that kind of structured? Like, can people just kind of volunteer as they have free time? Do you require a certain amount of hours?
Yeah, so we have a structured volunteer program, which kind of is our three main areas: tour docents, museum shop volunteers, and hands-on history volunteers. And we ask that people do at least two shifts a month while they can, because obviously school groups, we don't have any in the summer, so that requirement doesn't stick, for hands-on history volunteers. But 2 shifts a month is a total of 6 hours. So it's not a huge amount of time we're asking for, although we do encourage people that they can work more than that if they want to. But obviously we know, it's volunteer position. People have their own lives. So we have some volunteers that work every single week and are great about coming in a lot. We have others that just kind of come in like once or twice a month as often as they can because they're working and they're busy. So we do have some flexibility there, but we also do have people that just help us with our events and kind of specialty programming. So if you don't have enough time to really dedicate to like learning how to give a house tour, we have other options for you. And you can come and just kind of help out with events like the Wine Festival or July 4th, and help out with our big events where we need some extra help. And so you're not fully committed like every month of the year.
Right. Gotcha. So it was just when I was reading your talking points, I was thinking, I grew up 2 hours from here, never went to Poplar Forest until like 3 years ago. It's just crazy how like when you grow up or you live so close to something like that, you kind of take it for granted, or you maybe don't even realize it's there.
Yeah, well,
so interesting.
I mean, I grew up in Madison Heights, so 30 minutes away, and I still was the same. I remember going on a field trip when I was in elementary school. I do vaguely remember that when I was a little bit younger. But other than that, I never went to Poplar Forest until I was like in college, maybe, and I started going to public events that they did. And I mean, I'm a lifelong history nerd. I've been to Monticello, Jefferson's primary residence in Charlottesville. I'd been there, a ton of times growing up. But I always say it's the destinations that are the closest to us that I think we kind of, just assume they'll always be there. Oh, I'll get to it eventually because it's right down the street. And then those are the ones you tend to not get to because they're convenient and close.
Yeah, you're totally right. When we did our elementary school field trip, we went to Monticello, which was further away than Poplar Forest.
Yeah.
So just so interesting. But all right, so will you, before we start talking about the wine festival, will you give me a little bit of an overview of like the day-to-day of Poplar Forest? If someone was just to come in and visit you guys on a normal day when you're not having an event, what's some of the things that they can expect?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Poplar Forest was Thomas Jefferson's retreat home and plantation. He inherited the property in 1773, so he owned it from the time he was 30 years old through the rest of his life. So he had the property for over 50 years. But the retreat home that's there now that visitors tour was actually built or designed by Jefferson, built by free and enslaved labor for him to use kind of during his retirement years. So the house itself was started when Jefferson was serving his second term as president of the United States. And so it was really built to be a retreat home for Jefferson and some of his family members. And so it went through, several owners throughout history. Although it's a little surprising how few owners Poplar Forest actually had after Jefferson owned it. There were three other families that lived in the house through the 1980s, and then it was kind of just held on to by the last owner of the property until the corporation for Jefferson's Poplar Forest could form. Then we purchased the house with the intention to save it and restore it back to its Jefferson era appearance. It had suffered a fire in 1845, so the interior of the house was totally different. So the corporation formed, 40 years ago and have been restoring the house back to its original appearance for the last 40 years. And we just finished this year. So that's a huge milestone for the corporation, and we're really, really excited about it. So visitors today, when they come in, they go into the museum shop, they can look around, shop. There's a lot of unique gifts there, especially as Christmas time is coming up. We've got a lot of really interesting things there that people can see. They're then, they handle paying admission, doing all the fun stuff, and then they get a map of the property and they're directed to, depending on what the visitor decides to do, we offer docent guided tours. So you'll have a tour guide with you for an hour, walking you through the house. Or we have a self-guided option now where people can actually download a Poplar Forest app on their smartphone that has a guided tour on it that people can listen to or read, and they can go through the house on their own, which is great if people don't have maybe a full hour to be there, or, they've got kids or don't think they want to be with a guide for that long of a period of time. So they can kind of go through the house on their own. Then the lower level of the house is a museum with exhibits set up. We have what Jefferson called the wing of offices, which are basically just service rooms to the house. So that's where the kitchen, the smokehouse, the laundry, those sort of spaces are that people can see. We have our slave quarter site exhibit, which, like I said earlier, is brand new. We just installed that a year ago, which we're really excited about. And then we have our 1857 slave dwelling, which is the only intact slave quarter on the property. Obviously, it postdates Jefferson and the Jefferson family ownership, but it is still historically significant. And we're currently in the process of doing some archaeological digs right around that building. And so people, if they come now, they can go talk to the archaeologists if they're out there, see what they're finding, learn what they're kind of discovering out behind that building. So there's a ton of things to do when people come out to visit.
Yeah, that is really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys have your wine festival coming up in just a couple of weeks. So why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's in a week and a half, which I'm trying not to think about too much, although we are excited.
Yes, I'm sure it's so crazy, just having like event planning background, just knowing what goes into putting something together like this. So I'm hoping that you have some help and you don't do this all by yourself.
Yes, thankfully, we are a small staff, relatively small staff, but everyone is really great about stepping in. I mean, everyone knows, Wine Festival is an all hands on a deck event. No one's getting out of it. And, everyone's really great about making sure everything's set up on time. The breakdown usually happens pretty easily. So we're really lucky with the staff that we have.
Well, good. So it's your 14th annual Wine Fest. Have you been at Poplar Forest for that whole 14 years?
Almost. I missed the first wine festival, but every other one I've been at.
So it's going to be not this Saturday, but next Saturday, November 11th, and it's 11 to 5. And will you just give us a little bit of an overview about what you'll have going on that day?
Yeah, sure. So we have 10 wineries lined up at the moment for the festival. They're located in large heated tents because I know that's a concern for people in mid-November, which is fair. But we do these really large tents on the property. We put all of the wineries and craft vendors inside the tents so people can kind of be sort of inside. There's heaters going, so it's not too terribly cold in there. Of course, wine helps too if you're cold. That will also warm you up a little bit. But we also have live music going on throughout the day. We have food vendors on the property with really great food. Some of these food vendors have been coming since the very first wine festival, and they're fantastic. And Thomas Jefferson himself will be there, as portrayed by interpreter Bill Barker, who used to be at Colonial Williamsburg. He worked there for about 30 years or so. And then he, like Jefferson, has now retired to Monticello, where he works full time, but he comes out to Poplar Forest pretty regularly too. So it's always nice to have him. So Thomas Jefferson will be wandering around, taking pictures with people, talking. And then we also have a VIP tent experience as well. So on top of the roof of the wing, so it's kind of set away from the rest of the festival, we have a VIP tent where people can have private seating. There's catered hors d'oeuvres in that tent, wine tastings that are only available to the VIP attendees. And so that's another little special experience if people want something a little bit more than just wandering around through the winery tents, they can do that.
Yeah, that is awesome. And you're also going to be offering discounted rates for house tours that day as well.
Yes, we do. So the house will be open for tours. We will not offer app tours at the wine festival, unfortunately. It's just too busy of a day to be able to handle all of that. But as people arrive that morning, they'll check in at the admissions tent, and then they'll be directed over, if they're interested in a house tour, to go buy tickets that morning. So we don't sell house tour tickets in advance. You have to buy them day of, but you can go ahead and get that taken care of when people arrive if you want to go in the house. And then you'll be assigned sort of a time of the next available tour, and then you'll just come back to the front of the house and you'll get to go through on a slightly shortened version of the house tour, just because of the nature of the wine festival. And then so you can see the inside of the house, and then go back to enjoying all the music and wine on the property.
Yeah, that is awesome. And then as far as pricing, it looks like people can buy tickets in advance or at the door that day.
Yes, they can. Yes. So tickets are available online until 5 o'clock on Friday evening, the 10th. And they're $30 in advance for tasting tickets, $15 for non-tasting tickets. And then we will have tickets available for sale starting at about 10:30 that morning, on the 11th. And they'll be $35 day up for tasting tickets, and still $15 for non-tasting tickets.
Okay, perfect. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention about the wine festival?
The one thing that does tend to throw everybody off, which I fully understand now as a woman who does not get carded every time I purchase a drink, we will card everybody that has a tasting ticket. It doesn't matter how old you are or how old you look, you have to show an ID in order to use your tasting ticket. So just make sure you have your IDs with you and ready to check. We'll have wine available for purchase that day too. I mean, all the wineries will have all of their wine for sale, and we offer a wine valet. So if people want to come in and buy, a couple bottles or a case or two of wine and take it home with them, we have a valet so that they don't have to kind of cart it around the festival all day
Right.
long, which is kind of a nice feature.
Yes, that
as
is
well,
awesome.
so.
And I'm assuming, but do most of the wineries or whatever will be sold that day, will they have card stations or will you need to have cash?
No, they should all have card stations.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So again, that is going to be not this coming up Saturday, but next Saturday,
Mhm.
November 11th. It is the 14th annual Thomas Jefferson Wine Festival from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Poplar Forest. And you guys are also going to be hosting your holiday candlelight tours throughout Thanksgiving and going through mid-December. So will you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we've been doing these candlelight tours probably for about the same amount of time as we've done the wine festival, now that I think about it. But these are always a really nice sort of event to sort of kick off the holiday season. We will decorate the house in sort of Jeffersonian flair. Of course, Jefferson really didn't celebrate Christmas at Poplar Forest. We know he was there for at least 1 year at Christmas, and we're not sure exactly why he was there, if he got snowed in or if something happened and he couldn't travel back to Monticello. But we know he spent at least one Christmas in the house. But of course, back in Jefferson's day, people didn't decorate like we think of today.
Right.
So they would have used more natural greens that would have been found on the property. And so we kind of stick to that, and we decorate the house for Christmas, even though Jefferson maybe wouldn't have done that, just to bring a little festive air to the house. And so we offer these candlelight tours in the evening. They're at 5:30 and 6:30 on Thursday, Fridays, and the first Saturday of December. And then people can tour the house, but the tour is different than they get during the day. So it really focuses on holiday traditions of the Jefferson family, what we know about how they were celebrating Christmas, how Christmas would have impacted the enslaved community on the property. And so it's a really interesting, kind of different take of Poplar Forest. So even though he wasn't necessarily here, we know that, enslaved people were, and Christmas would have impacted them. And so we kind of just talk about all of these different holiday traditions. And you're in the house at night, which is also really cool. You don't necessarily think that just being in the house in the evening would make that big of a difference, but it has a totally different feel to it. You're with one guide the whole tour, and that guide is only doing your tour that night. So it's not like a rushed, they have to get back and do another tour in an hour. So you can ask all the questions you want to ask. You might get to go down the stairs in the house, which we don't let people do on a normal day-to-day basis. We'll have a fire going in the kitchen, so you can get kind of the ambiance of what cooking might have been like down there. And then it ends with cookies and cider in the museum shop. So a nice little kind of kickoff to the holiday season.
I love that. I live and my dad lives probably 10 minutes from you guys, so I'm gonna have to let him know that you guys are doing that because he is a huge history buff and he would love that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you need to tell him.
Yeah, so we'll have to come by. That sounds awesome. All right, so is there anything else about Poplar Forest that you want to mention while we're here?
Yeah, sure. Just mainly that Poplar Forest is open 7 days a week through December 30th. And then we'll close a little bit during the winter. We're typically open on Saturdays and Sundays, mid-January through mid-March, although we are talking about possibly being open year-round 7 days a week. But that's not solidified yet, so don't bank on that. But we are definitely open 7 days a week through the end of the year. We have guided tours as docents are available every day that we're open. And come out and see us. It's a really exciting time. We've got our new parkway. The restoration of the house is finished, which for the first time since the Jefferson era, which is really exciting. So now's a great time to come visit.
Yes, that is awesome. And you guys have a website that you keep pretty up to date with things. So it is poplarforest.org. And other than the website, what is a good way to stay in touch with you guys?
We've got great social media channels. So we've got kind of what I call the generic Poplar Forest social media handles. So we've got Facebook, we have an Instagram, we have a TikTok, although we don't update the TikTok quite as often as the other few channels. I'm not quite as up on my TikTok creation skills. But we also have restoration. Our restoration department has its own Instagram and Facebook page. And our archaeology department does as well. So if you're really into like the woodwork, the restoration of the house, give them a follow. If you're really interested in what the archaeologists are doing, they have a fantastic social media channel. So you can kind of keep up with all of the little nuanced things that we're doing on the property on all of our social medias.
Yes, that's awesome. I know, so many people love to see the behind the scenes and like the HGTV shows where they're like redoing houses. So the restoration social media, I'm sure, is really cool. And it's funny that you mentioned that about TikTok. It's so interesting how that could be a full-time job.
Oh, yes.
Like, it is not a light undertaking.
Oh, no. I mean, all social media, if people think social media is just like a fun little hobby that people do, especially in like the museum field,
right?
It is so much work.
There's so much that goes into it.
Yes, there is. And it's not even just like, you have to figure out what to post, but then like you're answering questions and, people get, it's social media. So people get upset over every little thing you post and you're constantly having to like check comments and answer questions. And I mean, it's a lot. It's really fun, but it is definitely a lot.
Does that fall under what you do too?
It does. Yeah. Wow. The generic, which is maybe not the best, word to call it, but the just Poplar Forest handles are me. I'm the one that manages those.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on this morning. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we mentioned poplarforest.org is their website, and that's a good way to find out their information. And then I see just on a quick search, it looks like your phone number is 434-525-1806. So if anyone needs to get in touch with you that way. And I guess that'll wrap it up. This has been a really great conversation. I've learned so much about Poplar Forest.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Good. So next week, Foster should be back in the podcast studio, and we will be able to talk a little bit about the Christmas market. Again, that's this Saturday from 10 to 3 at the Elks Home. And then again, the Poplar Forest Wine Festival is next Saturday, November 11th from 11 to 5. And we will be back next week with another Chamber Vibes podcast.